Hi, it's time for a mail call video. We haven't had a mail call video in a while and the boxes are kind of stacking up. I'm just going to do one this morning because this is one I'm particularly interested in. This was sent to me by Sarah from Tennessee, and I got kind of heads up on this that she was going to send this to me. So let's take a look and see what Sarah sent. Up, what we've got inside are two grab bags of vintage NuTone parts, primarily electronic parts as far as I know, but let's take a look at each sack and see what Sarah sent us. We'll start with this one because this is the one closest. My understanding is that someone in Sarah's family, either worked at a NuTone Service Center or was a NuTone Service Center, and they're sort of clearing out a house that was sold, and there was boxes full of stuff, including this, in the fellow's garage. So we'll go ahead and dump this out here. Let's keep falling on the floor. Mostly looks like electronic parts. Let's take a look and see what we have. It's a mixed bag of stuff. See if we can do some visual identification. Here we've got some sets. It's kind of nice. They're grouped together. They're all stapled together. There's a bunch of them. These are some small signal transistors, or 36577s. I think those are from the 303, 406 days. And based on just some of the other things I see in here, this is probably the era of when most of this stuff is from. Here are some half sockets for the connectors of the terminal boards on either 303s or 406s. Here we've got some green LEDs. This one's escaping out of the package here. Green LEDs would have been from a NuTone security system like a 2252 or a 2253, not used on intercoms. Here's some red LEDs from the same thing. So obviously the fellow worked on alarm panels for NuTone. Some more small signal transistors. Here we've got some Zener 16-volt Zener diodes, the original NuTone Zener diodes. How about that? See, this is all from back in the day when you could actually order individual components from NuTone to repair an intercom board or whatever you were working on, and those days ended a long time ago. Here are a bunch more transistors, some diodes. A lot of these you'd have to look up the part numbers in the old parts books to figure out what they're for. A lot of them would be easily replaced with modern parts nowadays, but sometimes you run across rare things that are hard to find. You know, a lot of, say, transistors, not the small signal transistors so much, but larger like power transistors, some of them are hard to find nowadays because they're not used in modern devices anymore, so they don't really manufacture new ones, and you've got to find a specialty supplier that you can order them from. So there's a lot of small signal transistors. You'll notice, like on this one, let's see if I can show you this here. If you look, that one's kind of hard to see. Let's see if we can show you on this one. This one's easier. So this one's got a little hole in the bag, and it's got solder on the leads. So it's either used or somebody used it to test a circuit and then it wasn't the problem, so they took it back out. But if you look carefully, we can get this to focus here a little bit. Let's see. You'll notice on there there's some colored stripes. We've got red, green, and white. So back in the old days of transistors, and it's still done a little bit nowadays, but not as much. Let's staple this back in this bag here. Transistors would be, after they were manufactured, they would be graded for their different characteristics. Primarily, you would be interested in the amount of gain that the transistor would produce, and then they would be sorted into different categories because different products sometimes needed transistors of different gain levels, and that's what the color coding was about on there. That's the way things were sorted in those days. Here we've got an integrated circuit in a bag. See if we can find a magnifying glass. Alright, so let's see if we can see what this is. Take a quick peek at it here. It's a 3088E. Not sure what that is. It was manufactured in 1998, I know that. So, and there's another one here. These two are the same. So those I'd have to look up to see what they are. Here's some more integrated circuits, and they're in little plastic holders like this. Little plastic tubes inside and they're taped closed. When you buy integrated circuits, these are like DIP 14 packages. When you buy them new, they come in long plastic tubes to protect the legs. And obviously what was done here, when NuTone sent these out to someone, they cut the tubes up into individual little packages to protect them. So that's good. Here we've got, this says ECG. ECG is a generic manufacturer of replacement transistors, and they still exist today. This is an MPS 006. Just based on the case style, it's an old-fashioned case style, don't know the number of it right off the top of my head. This would be from the 60s, so that would be good sometimes to repair a really older NuTone intercom. Here we have a thermal limiter from a NuTone heater. That's kind of an odd man out there. Here we've got some lamps and some lamps. These are out of like an SM428, or it could be out of a security panel also. I'm not sure about that. Some diodes. Here are some little orange lenses that a lamp would sit behind. I can't think off the top of my head of an intercom system that has an orange lens on it, but again, it could have come out of a security panel. Here we have a diode and a screw and a nut, so not sure what that's for. Here are some transistors and a diode escaping its package. Diodes are pretty common, so used diodes aren't that highly sought after. Here are some plunger switches. Let's take a look at this. It's got instructions in it. This would be from the 303 and 406 days, most likely. See what the instructions are for. Oops, got a washer. Obviously it was to shim something. Mounting replacement switches. Save these instructions. It shows you how to mount them. It shows you to put the washers behind the screws, but it doesn't show you what model it's used for. Based on just what it looks like, they're little 6-contact plunger switches like that. And they're open on the bottom. Oh, no, they're not open on the bottom, they're actually clear on the bottom. That's why you can see the plunger move back and forth. That's kind of interesting. These are probably from either a 303 or a 406 would be my guess. I'd have to look up the part number and see. It's one of the advantages of having all of the service manuals and all of the individual part sheets, because you can go back and look. Here's a amplifier IC, 3664700. This is the classic IMA 406, IMA 303 amplifier IC. I have some of those, but more is always good. Here's a bunch of TO220 transistors. Let's see if there's a number. 36698. Again, have to look those up, but things like this, these are the ones that sometimes have value because you can't always find the original ones anymore. Some more small signal transistors. Here's some old school metal case transistors. No part number on the bag. I have to look up the number on the transistor and see where it fits. Some more transistors. Whoever this all belonged to obviously did a fair amount of component repair, more diodes. Here's a big TO3 transistor case. It's probably used. It's a 36655. Doesn't jump out at me as to what it would be for. Let's see what it says on the back. It says Malaysia. That's where it was made. So there's an interesting story on the TO3 transistors. This design, this case design, was originally developed by Motorola. Everybody knows Motorola. And it was developed back in the 1950s. And it was originally designed to be used in car radios, because prior to that, car radios still had vacuum tubes in them. But with the development of transistors, they needed a output transistor design like this that was easy to install and was very rugged and also very low profile. In these days this was considered small, so that it wouldn't take up a lot of room because car radios were becoming smaller and smaller, and so this style is thanks to Motorola. Here we've got an output transistor. This is out of most likely out of a 406. 406 uses two complementary transistors on its output stage, and this would be one of them. These very rarely are a problem. I don't remember the case style of these. It's a larger case style, kind of gone out of fashion nowadays. Here we have some more integrated circuits, 366, 2 3s. Not sure what those are for. Doesn't sound familiar though. But see, these are all NuTone part numbers. These are not component part numbers. More transistors. Here we have some more integrated circuits. These are LM3900s. These are amplifier ICs used in like 478 amplifiers. Here, this little block right here. This is not a bad thing to have. This is a little bridge rectifier. It's basically 4 diodes inside the package, and it just plops onto the board. You solder the 4 leads and you're good to go. These were very popular back in the 70s and 80s because they were fast to assemble on a board. Instead of putting 4 components, you just put in one. And what's interesting about these are becoming actually harder and harder to find. They're not used in modern devices anymore, really, because they're so big, and primarily for intercoms they're used in 303s, 406s, and also in 478 amplifiers. And I actually, the supplier that we use, the brand that I like, the manufacturer was discontinuing them. So I actually bought, I think I bought 50 of them, and that'll last a long time. So I have them when I need them. Here are some other transistors. These are little TO6 packages with the bent legs. I don't know if you can see that very well. Bent legs, right angle bend. These are voltage regulator transistors for IMA 303s and 406s. This one's got solder on the tips, and this one does not, which again means that probably somebody used it to test a circuit and then it wasn't the problem, so they took it back out to save it. Back in the day, you know, if you're figuring that a lot of this stuff would be from the 60s, 70s, and early 80s, perhaps. Not every shop, you know, transistor testers, we take a lot of things for granted nowadays. I use a little transistor tester. It's about this size, about the size of a large pack of gum, and it's made by a company called Peak, and you hook it up to the leads, you push the button, and it tells you everything, all the characteristics and all the specifications about the transistor that you're testing, whether it's good or it's bad, it's got shorts in it, what the gain is, if it's got any leakage, all of these other kind of things, which we take for granted. That little device, I think it cost me, it was like 80 bucks, and it's a good quality one. But back in the day, if you go back into the 70s and even early 80s, those kind of devices didn't exist for common independent shops. Maybe if you had a lot of money or a big company, there was something that would be better. But what you had back in those days was basically an analog meter design, and you would hook it up and it would give you some information, but it wasn't that great. And I don't know what a device like that would have cost, say, in 1980, but I'm guessing it would be probably a couple $100s. So not every shop had transistor testers necessarily. So classic way of doing it, if you don't have a tester, if you think the transistor is bad, you remove the one that you have a question about and you install a new one and see what changes. So here's some more. Again, some of these have been used because the leads are all mangled. Here's another output transistor. Maybe that's the other half of the complementary pair for the first one we found. So we've got more small signal transistors. I'm guessing that these are all MPSA 20s because they're all stapled together. See, these are Elmira semiconductors. Don't know who that is. Don't know if these came from NuTone this way or whether these were something the fella bought from an independent shop. All of this has that really good, funky basement, old plastic smell to the bags. More small signal transistors. The small signal transistors, some of them will be really good to have. Here's a bag full of diodes. Old diodes don't have a lot of interest. Diodes are very common and easy to get, and usually when we buy them, you buy them about 100 at a time. Here's some more TO220 transistors. See if there's a number on these that I recognize. Oh, these are LM317s. These are voltage regulators. These are used in LA52 chimes, and I think maybe they're used in alarm or security panels. So these are adjustable voltage regulators, and these are actually dated, let's see, these are dated 1986. So that's when they were originally manufactured. They come in handy. They don't usually present a lot of problems. Here we have another stuck in the bag. This is another amplifier IC like the one I showed you before, but this one's a little different. If you look really carefully, you can see on the large tabs in the center on either side there's holes in them. So this is the audio amplifier for an SM428 amplifier board as compared to the other one, which is for an IMA 303 or 406. These have a higher output, more watts. So that's a good thing to have. Those are hard to find nowadays. Here's a little Simca relay, and there's a note in the bag. Check out before using, but may not be any good. CH. So it's used, obviously. I think these are used in security. So this guy seemed like he did a lot of security panel work. You know, a lot of people don't know. Another output transistor. That's a good one to have. Those are hard to find nowadays. Here's another voltage regulator transistor, half out of its bag with solder on its leads, I think. Yep. No, maybe not. No, silver leads. So that's probably new. That's a good one to have. Here's another TO3 transistor. So this bag is falling apart. So that's probably the other one came out of this set here also. So these are probably new. That's good. More diodes. More integrated circuits. These are NTE parts. So NTE, for those of you who don't know, NTE is sort of your main generic go-to company for replacement electronic parts. They sell everything. They sell transistors, diodes, integrated circuits, resistors. They sell pretty much everything. The thing about NTE parts is they're sort of a clearinghouse wholesale seller of parts, so you don't know what you're getting sometimes. They don't manufacture any parts at all. They buy up large lots of components from wherever they get them from, and then they rebrand them as NTE parts and put them in their own packaging and sell them. So there isn't anything inherently wrong with that, but it's sort of a mixed bag of stuff. When you buy it, you don't know from one purchase to the next what you're actually getting sometimes. So I don't use a lot of NTE parts. Sometimes they are the only company that you can find some things from, so you got to do what you got to do. Here are some resistors. Don't care about those really much at all. Some more diodes. Oh, these are germanium diodes. So these are old school diodes. These are actually a good thing to have. So in the early days of diodes, now we're used to now we have silicon diodes, but in the early days of diodes, they were made out of germanium. And germanium diodes have all different characteristics than silicon diodes do. And germanium diodes, they're getting harder and harder to find, and that also means that they are more and more expensive sometimes. So here we have some parts for a John Deere carburetor kit. At least that's what the bag says. And more transistors and some big diodes. These are some large, higher amperage diodes. These are probably like 1N4007s or something like that. Just because they're big doesn't make them worth a lot. They're common. I have many of those at the shop. Here we have some other, looks like diodes. They're Motorola diodes. They're 1N5258As. I'd have to look that up. But they're probably germanium diodes. Also, you can tell they're older because the leads are gold. I don't know if they're gold plated or just gold colored, but that's the way things were back in the old days. Circuit Sentry, heat detector, or alarm push button. No, don't care about that. Don't care about that. Here's a round bridge rectifier. It's got the 4 leads on it, so a classic old school style. This is similar to the block one I showed you earlier. More small signal transistors, more diodes, more transistors, a bag full of diodes. This, and then we've got all of these cardboard packages, which sort of got shuffled under the plastic bags. So before NuTone used plastic bags, like a lot of companies, they used paper envelopes. And you write the part number on it, and inside you've got parts. So odds are, see, these are transistors, and these are color coded as, put that down, these are red. So you'd have to look it up in the NuTone part sheet to find out what the specification for the red transistors are, because a lot of times, especially like in amplifiers, if you have matching transistors in a set, you want transistors that have the same specifications. You don't want an A-rated transistor paired up with a D-rated transistor. You want them all to be the same. So that's why color coding is important. And this is interesting. So these are called couplets. So you can find a good one to show you. And these are definitely old school. So this is called a resistor couplet. And what's inside of this is there's a whole series of resistors. So you have a leg here, and then there would be a resistor, and then this one, and they're all tied together in some form or another. Whether they're all looped together one after the other, or they're done in sets or pairs or whatever, you'd have to look up in the data sheet for this. But they're called couplets. These are used a lot in early amplifiers because, again, you know, this one's got 10 leads, so it's probably got 8 resistors inside of it, and it's a lot quicker and easier to take this out of a package and you plunk it onto a board and solder it in place than it is to bend 8 individual resistors and put them all one at a time on the board. So it's speedier for manufacturing. Interestingly enough, these were manufactured and used in a lot of the earliest radios that were made back in the 1930s. These are actually would be considered an integrated circuit. When you think integrated circuit, you think of something like this, little plastic package, and you got legs on it, and you solder it on the board, and it's got dozens or hundreds of components inside of it. Well, this is an integrated circuit also. It's a simple integrated circuit, but it's got more than one component inside the case, so, and they're all tied together, so it's integrated, and there's a whole bunch of these. These are rarely ever a problem, but when you need a replacement, like here's one that's got 13 legs on it, so there's probably 11 components inside of it, and NuTone is called a resistor pack on here. And there's instructions. Let's take a quick look and see what it says. This one's been opened before, because this is back in the old days. The bag's all falling apart. It's all stapled together here. So there it is. There's our culprit. Let's see if we can see what it says. Sage words from NuTone. NuTone resistor pack 33036 replacement instructions. Resistor pack is used to replace a 33031 resistor pack. This one does not have pin 11, therefore replacing this one with you must add a diode, place a cathode diode, PC board 11, blah, 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 blah. So this is all very interesting. This is dated November 1977. It's service note number SR685. It doesn't say what it's for. See, there's an assumption that if you are a service center and you're doing component level repair, that you got some basic idea of what the heck it is you're doing. So they don't need to spell it out in a 4-page step-by-step with 13 cautions about getting it wet and doing it outside in the rain and make sure you unplug it before you work on it, because you're kind of supposed to know all that kind of stuff. More resistors, something that says P. Here's a big chunky bag. And we got more output transistors. And in fact, this one's dated 1974. This one, if you look carefully, it says it has an M on it for Motorola, so it's a genuine article. This one's probably new, this one's probably new. This one's got white dried up paste on it, so that's heatsink compound, so that's been in a set at some point or another. It's probably good, and that's why the guy saved it. These all are skinny packages. so we won't worry about what's in those. Little washer fell out. So that's bag number 1. Oh look, and here we have a set of hinges for an IMA or IM 4006. One of them's broken already though. It's too bad because these are valuable nowadays. And then we've got the second bag here. Let's see what we've got in this one. It's like a bonanza of vintage parts. And we've got, this is divided up. We've got 2 bags inside. This is a little pulley assembly, and as odd as it seems, this is a genuine NuTone part, and I actually know what this is from. This is from the dial cord assembly out of a NuTone N2500 stereo receiver. How about that? See how small my life can be sometimes? I know just on sight what all this is, or at least a lot of it. Here we have an integrated circuit. Don't recognize the number, but it's from 1979. Oh, look. Here we have a replacement transistor from Radio Shack. Also, it's Archer. Archer was one of the brands that they used. I'm not sure when this is from. I'm going to guess. There's no date on it. It's a 2N2907. Also a Radio Shack number 2021. And it replaces a whole raft of transistors they show on the back. And you got one transistor for 79 cents. How about that? That reminds me of the days back when I worked at a Radio Shack store when I was in high school. Here's an old transistor, some more NTE parts. This is a MOSFET. NTE. Look at that in a second. Here's some little, these are little tuning coil assemblies used in NuTone tuner assemblies to help align the tuner. A couple of those. They look new. These kind of parts nowadays, because they go into old school tuners, these are impossible to find nowadays. These kind of parts aren't actually made anymore as far as I know. So finding replacements, if you ever need one, they very rarely go bad, but if you ever need one, usually you're stuck with scavenging one off of a board because they don't make them anymore, because that's not how radio tuners are designed. Here's an adjustable voltage regulator, another LM317. Here's an old school, this is a TO6 NPN power transistor, the GE number 12. Also a ECG 124. Don't recognize that at all, but it's an old school package. It's a smaller package than the TO3 packages. Here's some little Sprague or Sprague ceramic capacitors like this. These almost never go bad, although they can. I was taught in school that ceramic capacitors like this will never ever ever fail, and I can tell you from first-hand experience that's not really true, because they do sometimes. So these are, can't read it, it's all scribbled, and it's been scribbled over. They are catalog number TE1305, if that means anything. Here we have a box of ECG components. So ECG is a Philips company. I don't know if they still are or not. I think ECG was bought up by someone. It might have been bought up by NTE, I'm not sure. But what do we have in here? We've got a little old diode. So it seems like an awful lot of packaging for a diode, don't you think? And see what it says here. It's a 5.6 volt at 1 watt. Oh, you got 2. Originally you got 2 in the package. Oh, nice box would have 2 of them in there. That one sounds like it's still got 2 in it. No, that one's got transistors in it. So you can't trust what the box says, because it looks like the boxes were used primarily for storage. Here we've got a little 8-pin DIP IC package, and if we take a quick look at it here, see if it says what it is. It's an RCA 540. No clue as to what that is. The box says is an ECG 941M. So, don't know. A lot of this is miscellaneous, but this is how parts were packaged back in the day. There used to be a parts supplier in Berkeley that I would go to when I first started the company. It was an old school place. It was originally, the building that they're in, it was an Edison School of Electricity in the turn of the 1900s. And they would have classes there and teach people about electricity and I guess how to be electricians or something. And it's a really cool old stone building, and it's had electronic component supplier in it for as long as I can remember, all the way back probably to the 50s. And it used to be the go-to place before the internet for components and especially vacuum tubes. And it's one of the few places around that actually has several vacuum tube testers that, and back in the old days, they would let you just go in and test your own tubes. Nowadays, they're behind an enclosure and one of the employees will test the tubes for you because they don't want you breaking their tube testers, which is fine. But this is the way parts there used to be. So, and those guys that worked there, they knew everything about what they were selling. So here's some more ECG transistors. See, you'd have to look up the ECG number and then you'd have to sort of backtrace it to figure out what these are for exactly. So, not that familiar with that. Here are some more diodes. And then we've got a whole bag of stuff here. And these look like they're more generic-y kind of parts. Here is a interesting, this is a tuning condenser assembly. Not going to take it out of the bag. For a NuTone intercom, I would assume it's a 6024900. It's a small one, so it probably would have been out of a like an IM or an IMA 203 is my guess, because that's kind of what it looks like. And then we've got all of these packages. We've got more bags here with integrated circuits, all NTE parts. Not sure exactly what they're all for. This is an FM-IF amplifier detector, and this is an op amp that fell out of the bag. And what else do we have? High performance op amp, sound IF amp for TV and radio. So some of this stuff, maybe this guy, a lot of NuTone Service Centers were also radio and TV repair shops. They didn't work just on NuTone stuff. So some of this stuff might be television stuff. But here we have an old school capacitor. It's a Sprague 500 microfarad at 25 volt. It's in a real NuTone bag. See? Real bag, orange capacitor, big giant old school one nowadays. See if there's a date code on this. Look here. I would say it was made in 1974. So even though, this is a lesson for everybody, even though this is brand new and it's in its original bag and it's obviously never been installed, it is 45 years old. And this is toast. This is way beyond its shelf life. This has actually no value, has no place being installed in anything. Just because it's new doesn't mean it's any good. It's 45 years old, and I don't want to hear from everybody about, oh, you can reform the capacitor and it'll be fine, and check it and bring it up slowly. And sorry, it's 45 years old. A modern replacement for this today, if I order it from Mauser on a regular parts order, will cost me under $2. So you don't put a 45-year-old part in a set that you're repairing just because it's brand new, when you can buy a modern replacement that was made within the last probably 3 or 4 months for $2. So this goes in the trash. Here we've got a couple. These are good to have. These look like they're used, but they're still good. These are, there's 2 of them in here, the big wheels. So these are the tuning drums in quotes. It's a wheel, but it's for, these are for IM and IMA 203s and a couple other models that the model numbers escape me. They're the builder entry-level 3-wire systems back in the late 60s and early 70s. So you've got the tuning drums in quotes, the pointer here, and the dial cords. And the dial cords are valuable because they tend to fray sometimes when the tuning shaft gets worn and it sticks and people wrench on it too hard and they break the dial cord. And making a dial cord up out of a piece of dial string is a total pain in the neck. So having real replacement ones come in handy. And so I'll show you these also. These are other dial cords, and I'd have to look up which one these are from, but I'm going to guess, based on just what they look like, that they're probably from 303 IM 303s and 406s. So let's open one of these since the bag's fallen apart. And so this is a dial cord. We'll unwind it here, see if we can not tangle it up. So dial cord is essentially, it's a long piece of string, but it's special string. It's dial cord string, and you can still buy dial cord string. It comes in different diameters, and you have to carefully, if you don't know, you have to carefully try to measure what you have, or if you're not sure, you order a couple different kinds and then you'll know which ones you have. All NuTone intercoms use the same type of dial cord string, so you can buy a roll of it of like 1,000 feet and that'll last you more than a lifetime. But the important bits are on the ends, you have little crimped eyelets, and the crimped eyelets fit over hooks, and then the other end, on the other end you have another crimped eyelet. Let's find it here. There's one there. There would be a spring which hooks to another clip, and that gives the spring some tension, and you wind it around the pulleys and the drum and the other things, and when you turn the knob it goes around the tuning shaft. You wind it around like this, and when you turn it, it winds it one direction or the other. So if you have to make one of these up from scratch, you can, but it has to be exactly the right length, because if it's too short it won't fit. If it's too long it's too loose and then it doesn't work properly. And you have to get the little eyelets, and you have to try to fold over the end of the string and crimp the eyelets onto the string, and it's a total pain in the neck. So these, while they seem like silly small parts, they're not. They come in handy. The original IMA 303s, 406s, they had a problem with the tuning shafts, the part that the tuning knob fits onto, because the tuning shaft was brass, but the sleeve that it fit into was steel, and you get this metrolysis thing that happens between the two dissimilar metals, and over time the metals want to bond together, and the shaft becomes harder and harder to turn, and of course that means people twist it harder and harder, which puts stress on the string, and eventually if you keep at it long enough you'll break the string, and then you've got to replace it. So having these is good. I also noticed in this little packet, these are all stapled together. Here are some more tuning coil assemblies. Now, I'll probably never use these, but when you're in the repair business, you never know. And also, I don't know, it gives you a sense of well-being that you've got those kind of things here. So here we've got some more parts. These come from a place called CentraLab. And I guess that's maybe a manufacturer, I don't know. These look pretty old school to me. I doubt there's any dates on them. No. So I don't know if these were intended for used in intercom systems, or these are just basic general parts that the guy kept on hand. They seem to be sorted out, and every one seems to have, these are Sprague or Sprague. They seem to be some new ones and some old ones, so whoever had these, they were a real typical repair shop where if something might have had some value at some time in the future, you wouldn't just toss it away, you'd hold on to it. Plus you've got these sort of groovy little plastic cases that you could put things in. So maybe I'll figure out something to do with those. Here we've got an RCA, probably a transistor. Yep, just a little small signal transistor. It's obviously been used, so whether it's any good or not, I don't know, but I can always hook it up to my transistor tester and see. And here we have another ECG part. This is probably a TO3 transistor, and it is. It's been used because it's got white paste on it, but that doesn't mean it's bad. It just means the guy probably saved it. This is a 2N3055. No idea, but I could look it up. Some more little cases. Sounds like a transistor, transistor, transistor. This one's got something in here. Oh yeah. Ah, look. So here's one. It's a Sylvania. It looks like it's brand new. It's even still got its mica insulator. So let's look at that real quick. So when you put in one of these, put that there. This is brand new. This is Sylvania. It's an ECG number 219. And all transistors have 3 connections. You've got an emitter connection, a base connection, and a collector. So on a TO3 like this, the case is the collector, and it would plug into a socket. So the 2 pins plug into a socket, and then there would be 2 screws, and it threads down and ties it into the socket and holds it in place. And the collector it would be sitting usually against a metal chassis or something like that, and you don't necessarily want the case to be grounded out on the chassis of the device. So what you have is you have a clear mica insulator. And mica is a mineral. If you were to break this is not plastic, it's mica. And if you were to break it, it sort of slivers. It's sort of like slate, only way thinner. And that's what insulators are made out of. So what you do is you take your transistor and you put some heatsink compound on it, the white stuff, and you just put the thinnest little coat on the metal. And the purpose of the heatsink compound is it fills up all of the microscopic irregularities in the metal surface of the case. And then you put your insulator down like this, and then you put a little more heatsink compound on the insulator, and then when you plug it into the socket on the chassis of the device like this, and you put the screws, it squishes it all down, and the heatsink compound that you put on the insulator then gets pushed into the metal of the chassis to fill its microscopic voids, and it creates a good thermal bond. A path for the heat that the transistor will generate will travel through the metal case of the transistor, through the heatsink compound, through the insulator, through the other heatsink compound, and into the chassis of the device, because the chassis of the device is acting as a big heat sink. It draws the heat away from the transistor so it stays stable and it doesn't burn itself up. But the real purpose of the insulator is you don't want the case of the transistor, which is the collector, to short out on the chassis of the device, so the insulator insulates it, keeps them separate, and it's important. And when you replace a transistor like this, you should always replace the insulator. And if it's been in use for, say, more than maybe 8 years or so, you should clean off the old heatsink compound and you just wipe it off and you apply new fresh, because it does tend to get hard sometimes, and you don't want that. So you should apply new fresh compound to it, and then you reassemble it all. You also have to be careful. There's lots of different types of heatsink compound made nowadays. Some of it has metal particles in it, and that's the type that's primarily used when you put microprocessors on computer boards, and then you put a big finned heat sink on top of the microprocessor kind of thing, and it goes under names like Arctic Blue and things like that. You don't want to use that type on this type of device, because you don't want any metal, you don't want any chance that you're going to short the case of the transistor onto the chassis of the device. So you use the plain old school white type, because that way it's not conductive. So we have that. So that's your lesson on transistors for the day. So this is quite a pile of stuff, and it will take a certain amount of time to go through it all. Some of it, like these old ceramic capacitors, these will get sorted into a package and put into a tub that I have at the shop for sort of miscellaneous parts. Oh, this is kind of cool. You actually have the ratings on the ends of the little plastic cases as to what's supposed to be inside of them. You got 12 picofarad, 10 picofarad, 470, that would be 47 picofarad, 390 picofarad. So you've got all the little ratings on that. I'm pretty sure this guy probably was a TV and repair shop along with a NuTone Service Center. Some of this has value, some of it may not. Anything that has value will be sorted out at the shop and put in their appropriate tubs for future use. Some of the stuff like the diodes, and here we have a package of 2 resistors. Don't know what these are for. There's no part numbers on it. This is an old carbon comp resistor. This is kind of most people are used to seeing. It's got sort of the gray, the brown Bakelite body on it. Resistor like this costs like a penny. So am I going to hold on to this for someday when I might need it? No, probably not, because I got millions of resistors. Also, like common diodes like 1N4002s and 1N4004s, I'm not going to use a 40-year-old diode in somebody's repair. It's just not a good choice. So some of that kind of stuff eventually it won't go in the trash. What it'll do is, I have a nephew who's a science teacher in a middle school, and he's sort of the STEM teacher for the middle school, so they do the science, technology, math, art and math, or whatever it is. Every school year I give him boxes full of stuff that he can use in his class, because they do robotics and he teaches the kids how to solder and build things. And having, you know, if you've got a miscellaneous box of diodes that you can use if you've got some kid building a project board or something, it comes in handy, and that way it doesn't go in the trash. So he'll probably get all the cast-offs here, and he can let his kids go to town with it and see what they can do. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, because that helps us. There'll be a banner right here that shows you how to subscribe. Go to our YouTube homepage, click on the bell, and when you click on the bell, click on it to receive all notifications, and every time we post a new video, you'll get a notification and you can watch it. That's all for today. See you on the next video.